gonna try to get a decent launch out of here. Hey, what's up kids? Welcome back to the Speedy's Garage YouTube channel. I got a couple of things to tell you about today. First, I feel like I've been being held hostage by Mother Nature. It has threatened thunderstorms every day for over a week. I think I've got a window. I'm dying to get out and drive the car, go here a little bit. I haven't been out in it in a while. Last time I did install the BMR Cradle Lockouts, so I'm really anxious to go out for a test drive and see if I can even tell the difference. Hopefully I can't, because I was really happy with, you know, the factory suspension. I don't want to change that too much because, like I mentioned in the install video, which I'll link to the top, I drive this car on the street most of the time. So the last thing I really wanted to do is mess that up and cause any additional noise or vibration or harshness or anything like that with the driveline. First maiden voyage with the BMR lockouts will be today. And look what else showed up. That is the supercharger back from SDG Motorsports. I haven't opened the boxes yet. I thought we would do that together. I'll show it to you guys the same time I actually get to see it. Jesse over there did send me some pictures. I'll give you a little sneak preview right here. When he got the supercharger, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, I don't think I have yet, he thought at first it was A-okay. If you missed all that where I disassembled it, I'll link to that to the top too. I've got all the parts laid out, ready for reassembly. The supercharger is now back. He actually emailed me after he received it, and he said, hey, I'm taking the supercharger apart. Are you sure you want me to rebuild it? Because I can't really find, you know, so far anything wrong with it. And he said, I can continue to investigate and let you know, but so far so good. He said, think about, you know, if I get into it and find that I don't really see anything wrong, he said, don't rebuild it just to rebuild it. He said, there's a limit on the number of times they can actually be rebuilt, and it had something to do with the rear gear case and, I don't know, something with some tabs that hold some stuff back there. You can only manipulate them so many times before they give trouble. So he said, really think about that, but I'll continue to get into it and I'll let you know what I find. He said, but so far so good on the supercharger side. Now, on the snout side, it had obviously broken that bolt that's on the back side of the shaft that holds the pulley. So he said, I'm going to go ahead and work that over and perform my upgrades and everything on it. He said, I'll let you know on the supercharger. He offered to refund my money. He said, I'm going to refund if the supercharger base, the actual case itself, doesn't need any work, I'll just refund you. So I really appreciated that he didn't feel like he was trying to upsell me and was even trying to save me a few bucks if he could. However, the story changed a few hours later when he emailed me again. He said, hey, I need to call you. We got some stuff we got to talk about. So stay tuned, and I'm going to let you know sort of how that turned out. Bottom line is, we've got a much better than new red-eye 2.7 liter supercharger ready to go back on the car for go man go. I had to make a pulley decision. I'll let you know where I ended up on that too. Was I going to run the 272? Was I going to run the 285? I talked about some RPM limits on everything, and heat's obviously a concern because these 2.7 liter superchargers, you're just getting bigger rotors. The case, the cooling bricks, all that stuff is the exact same as a 2.4 liter supercharger. Now you're just cramming more air through, and so you can start to overheat the intake charge a little easier with the 2.7. So I had to kind of think about that in terms of how much pulley I wanted to run, or how much boost, we'll call it. That's what most people kind of refer it to. So that's coming up. But today, man, I've been dying to get out and drive go man go a little bit. I'm anxious to see how these BMR Cradle Lockouts make the car feel. Hopefully I don't notice much of a difference other than maybe some, you know, smoother acceleration, we'll say. So let's go in for that drive and see how it is. And while I'm out here, I did get some new Mickey Thompson ET Street R drag radials. If you remember our last time out, traction was a little bit questionable. The previous tires were worn way down. These were actually hard to find. I did some checking around and I couldn't find 315. Somebody, you know, we've been talking about, should I do a 315? Should I stick with a 305? Kind of going back and forth on that. So I started calling around and I couldn't find 315s anywhere. So that started to sort of make the decision a lot easier for me. If I did the 315, the question was, would the 262 gear work with it, or would I have to go to a 309 gear? Now you're one mod requiring another mod, and you just get down this rabbit hole, which I've tried to avoid as much as possible. The car's already meeting my goals. Putting that 272 supercharger on with a little more power may change things a little bit, but I'm going to try not to go down a rabbit hole. A little hard to do sometimes, but we're going to try. So I called around and was able to find two 305s. So I've got Mickey Thompson ET Street R's and the 305 45 17, which is what I ran before. I'm hoping with those being new, they will help my traction issues I had the last time out. It was hit or miss, but the previous tires were worn all the way down past, like you couldn't even hardly see any line on them, much less the wear mark. So those came in. I was lucky to find the two. I got them about 6 or 8 weeks ago. I went and had them mounted up last week and just got them back to the house. I don't know if they're easier to find now. Hopefully they are. When I ordered mine, they were on back order for like 3 months. Maybe they did better, maybe they didn't, but I'm glad I found it. All right. Been a minute, so I'm anxious to go for this drive. First test will be dropping off the end of the driveway. I don't feel any difference. That's good news. I'm running my flex fuel tune. I've had put a few gallons of 93 through the car. I like to do that. I don't know if I mentioned that before. I like to do that just to keep things cleaned out as far as the fuel system goes. I don't know that it's really necessary, but since I can, I mean, why not? So I'm actually towards the tail end of that. I'm almost out, so I'm going to fill it back up with E85 today so that we can make full power. Crap, I should have taken the other road. I forgot. They're doing all kinds of construction on one of the roads by my house, and they've just made a big mess back here. They're building a pretty good sized subdivision. It's a shame. It used to be like open fields, hay fields. You'd see turkey and deer and everything, and now they've cut all the trees down and they're building a subdivision over there. But anyway, so far I don't really notice too much of a difference. It might be that much more firm. I mean, I've only been driving the car 2 or 3 minutes, so I don't want to make too many quick judgments, but things feel pretty good. I can tell something's different. I think I told you guys I do drive this car on the road a lot, so little bitty things I notice. I'm just, you know, if you're into cars, and I guess if you drive the same one a lot, you kind of get a feel for how things are supposed to be, how that sounds. So you're kind of keen to small changes like that. And so I feel just a small difference. We're gonna hit some bumps up here. We'll see how they do. Yeah, it's firmer, but it's not jarring. It's not like annoying. If it had come like this, I wouldn't have complained. So that's good news. I do notice a difference though. I can tell when I hit bumps and stuff, it's firmer, kind of like the difference in what I would call street and track. So now I'm in street, or not street and track, street and sport for suspension. So right now I'm in like street, and it sort of feels more like sport. And speaking of that, let's flip it to sport and see if I can tell the difference there. So now suspension is in sport, and I've got the BMR Cradle Lockout installed. Let's see if I can tell the difference. Not really. Feels about the same. So I guess a good test to see if you would like how the BMR, now remember I've got the AAD drag pack suspension on the back too, so I've got the upgraded arms and all of that. If you really want to see if you would have a problem with the BMR Cradle Lockout, you could flip the car to sport for suspension and drive it around a little bit and see how you like it, because that's really That's really sort of what it feels like to me. Sport and standard, or whatever you want to call it, and street, they sort of feel the same. Flip it back to street again. Yeah. So that's the big difference, really, that I can tell so far. I'm got an errand I'm going to run. I'll drive the car for a half hour or so, and towards the end, I'll have driven it for a while, and I can really kind of speak to it. Mildly firmer is what I'm going to say for now. Not jarring. I hear a little bit more sound when I go over bumps, but it's not anything that would bother me, even if I daily drove the car. It's not a big deal. So I'll drive the car for a little bit. I'll let you know towards the end how I really feel about it after I've been in the car for a little while and can kind of have a feel for it. All right, I've got a little test spot here. I'm going to see if I can slow down a little bit and give it some beans. See if I can tell if it tracks any straighter or anything like that. Felt like it planted down pretty good. Normally I would have spun the tire a little bit right there, but that could be temperature, it could be anything. That was in sport, so yeah, so far so good. Again, I can tell a little bit more firmness in the suspension. It's not anything that would annoy me, but there is a difference. So if you think you're going to put them in there and literally be no change, I wouldn't expect that. But if the car had come like this, like I said, I'd still be fine with that. And if it pays off with more consistent 60 foots at the track, it's definitely going to be worth it. All right, I'm going to try to get a decent launch out of here. Yeah, tire spun and it went dead straight, and I didn't feel any of that squishiness, wobbliness like you would feel before. Yep, I like this. Well, low fuel lights on. Should be pretty close to empty. Like I said, I'm running my flex fuel tune. I had quite a bit of 93 in it, so you can see the air fuel gauge there is 12.3, 12.4, which is what it should be for the amount of 93 in the tank. I'm going to fill it up probably to about halfway with E85, and I like to do it in stages. I never run more than about a half a tank in the car because I'm never sure if I'm going to need to switch fuels for some reason. So that's usually what I do unless I know I'm taking a drive somewhere. So put a few gallons of E85 in the tank and we'll let it calculate again. All right, I put about 9, let's see. Yeah, right about 9 gallons of E85 in the tank. And I get E85 from this place all the time. I don't even check it anymore. It's a really good, I'm really lucky to have this brand around here because their E85 is almost always at least E85. Sometimes it's higher than that. So I don't even check it anymore. Plus flex fuel, it'll just figure it out. And this car, with the way I've got it tuned, usually takes it about 5 minutes after fill up to sort of figure out everything, and it gets to about 80% of accurate, and then it takes about another probably 10 or 15 minutes to get that last 15 or 20% of accuracy. So I just cruise. I don't ever get on it real hard right after I put E85 in it, let it figure things out first. This thunderstorm, these thunderstorms I'm telling you guys about that I've been dodging, they are chasing me, so it's time to get back to the shop. There you go. You can see it recalculated. I put 9 gallons of E85 in. There was probably 2 gallons in the tank. So I figured around a 10, low 10 air fuel ratio is probably about right. I've learned to trust it. So the flex fuel, it actually is pretty handy. Try to get one more little, not a hard launch, but aggressive anyway, just to kind of see how it feels. Yeah, it just wants to launch straight. The tires were spinning a little bit, but way more controlled than it used to be. told you guys that thunderstorm was chasing me as soon as I pulled in the subdivision. Luckily I made it. Well, I'm back at the shop and everything went better than expected, to be honest. I could barely tell a difference like I mentioned, but honestly, halfway through the test drive, I forgot I was even out testing something. So that's telling. That means that the difference wasn't enough that I continued to notice it. So again, very small difference in kind of the firmness and the feel of the rear end. Everything felt more tightened and connected, I guess is the best way I could say it. And again, it felt like street was sport, but sport didn't feel any more firm than it did previously. So that's basically it. So I highly recommend the BMR Cradle Lockout. A lot of people have already been using it. I'm kind of behind the times on this deal. A little bit worried it would impact or negatively impact the ride. The nice thing, I launched it twice like you saw, and both times, even though the tires were spinning, the car squatted and just went straight. Before, it would kind of wind up, and if you have one of these, you know what I'm talking about. When the tires would start to spin, you'd kind of feel this squishy kind of feel until everything sort of got itself figured out, and then it would sort of go straight. I always worried that if I was doing something like that, at some point something would unload and I would unexpectedly lose control of the car. Where now the tires were spinning, but it was going perfectly straight. I didn't feel anything squishing around at all, and I felt like I had more control. I hope that makes sense. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Be sure to check us out on Instagram. It's @Speedys_garage, as well as the website, www.speedysgarage.net, and hopefully I'll see you out there.